4 years ago, I was getting terribly bored in class and university. So I decided to start drawing random pixel art in Microsoft Paint. I had no idea all my art was going to turn on into this amazing turn-based RPG that I'm working on right now. Hi, I'm Dave. I'm an indie game developer from Romania, currently working on a turn-based mobile RPG called Tale and Ale. It's going to be released sometime in the future on Android Store and maybe iOS, but until then, we're gonna jump right into the development of Tale and Ale with the first devlog that I upload on YouTube. Let's get right into it. So I had amassed already quite a few sprites, which I knew I had to put in a game somehow. I just didn't know exactly what to make. So I went with Pokemon, what everyone would go with when you have no ideas and tons of monster sprites and heroes and all that kind of stuff. At first, it was quite hard getting the idea right. I tried one iteration with a very Pokemon-like battle style, but it didn't really work out because the combats were only 1 against 1. You would have a hero fighting against one enemy at a time, and that was not really exactly as dynamic as I wanted it to be. So I scrapped the whole thing up. It was time for a redesign. For now, I'm gonna sit in this corner so I can show you on the screen Tale and Ale. I am currently working with the Stencyl game engine, which is a very intuitive engine running on the Hex programming language. By the way, if you're interested in Stencyl, I have a pretty in-depth review and I will link it in the description down below. I also work with Asaprite and Photopia. Photopia? I'm not sure what it's called. It's basically the free version of Photoshop made by some guy on the internet. It's completely free, runs inside the browser. It's amazing. The first thing that I had to do was the combat system. It was pretty tough to get going at first, but once I got it, I just knew everything I could make with it. I had a whole new world of possibilities with this new tile-based combat in which position mattered. The style of combat was heavily inspired from Into the Breach and Heroes of Might and Magic 5. It's an amazing game, by the way. I immediately thought of multiple types of spells which could be used, targeting any ally, skill shots, AoE damage, targeting any enemy within range, movement, and the list just goes on. The first thing that I had to implement, however, was the skill shot spell. If you're not familiar with the term skill shot, it comes from League of Legends, in which you throw something, let's say a firebolt, you throw it and it hits the first target in its way. That is also how the normal attacks work. They're just one skill shot with one range and no missile, just hit. The second hard thing to do was the inventory system, which I've never done an inventory system before, and I am honestly surprised how well it's working. I cannot believe it. It's just a matrix of sprites and items with lots of helper methods to make everything tie in smoothly. And of course, the most important part in combat, because this is a single player game or not a multiplayer game, was the AI. I had some ideas on how to make the AI, but I just went on with whatever I had in mind. So I started with the really basic idea that if an enemy can hit you, it's just gonna hit you. If the enemy cannot hit you, but it can get in range to hit you, then it's gonna move near you and then it's gonna hit you. If it cannot do any of these things, it's just gonna move towards you. I made all of this with a simple search algorithm, really not that complicated, very brute force and very slow. I needed icons for my game's spells and items. Luckily, I found this amazing art pack on opengameart.org, which I have linked down in the description, by the way. You can check it out. It contains 496 icons, 32 by 32. I just had a huge database to work with, and the possibilities now are endless. Sky's the limit. So I had the combat going. I needed something outside of combat, so I made a town in which the player can buy gear, can buy spells, and manage their character. The town was heavily inspired from the game Gladiator Rising, which is a turn-based mobile RPG on Android store and probably iOS. It's one of the main inspirations for my game. You basically see all the town on your screen, you can click on a shop, and you can buy items. It's just as simple as that. Level selection. I was not, and I'm still not sure whether I want my game to be roguelike or with pre-made levels. There are benefits to both. For now, I'm gonna go with pre-made levels. So I made a level selector scene in which you can select a level to play, obviously. I keep all my levels, all my spells, all items, units, monsters, everything, I keep them in databases, which are stored as text files in the game directory. So what's coming up next? Lately, I've been trying to redesign some enemies. I was pretty bad at pixel art 4 years ago, and I'm still stuck with tens of sprites from that day and time. So now I'm trying to rework them a little bit. I have managed to remake the peasant. Turned out pretty damn awesome. I also remade the ranger, which was in the game in my first video. And I'm still working on remaking other creatures, just to make them look a bit smoother and, you know, just more modern. I'm also looking towards improving the AI system to give it more possibilities so that I can make the game bigger. One thing that I want to achieve with this game is a lot of content. This is a type of game to which you can add lots of content. Hey, I have hundreds of icons to work with, so, you know. I hope that by the next devlog, I will have even more sprites made, even more sprites redesigned, and a really well-working game loop, which at the moment I do not have. Yes, you can get into combat, back to town, buy items and stuff like that, but it's not really a real game. If you're still interested in my game and the development of Tale & Ale, please consider subscribing to the channel, and you can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter. My Facebook and Twitter are linked down below in the description. Until the next time, thanks for watching and have a nice development journey.